Okay, what we have here is an '04 Chevy Suburban with a 5.3, and the complaint is air conditioning not working at idle, but it seems to be cooling okay when going down the road. And normally when you get that complaint, the first thing you always want to check is your fan clutch. Fan clutches aren't as, you used to always be able to check your fan clutch by just snapping the throttle, but most of these newer vehicles now are all electronic throttle, so standing here and snapping the throttle and feeling for a rush of air just isn't possible anymore, unless you got somebody that inside the vehicle, if you've got a helper who can stand on the throttle. But even then, a lot of times you won't get that gush of air because the throttle response on an electronic throttle isn't nearly as fast as what you would get when you manually snap the throttle. But we're going to start this vehicle up here and see what happens when your fan clutch isn't operating properly. Now we see our pressure. We hit about 250 right away, right off of idle. And this fan clutch will work for a minute or two, but after you've been driving for a while, initially at idle it'll work, but start it up and drive it for a little bit. See, we're around 2,000 RPM. I'll let her cool down here, and we see our gauge is moving. Well, she's hanging around 200, which ain't too bad yet, but we'll get on the gas a little bit more here and see what happens. We can duplicate this again. And we see here we're not pulling nearly enough air through our condenser. We're right now idling at 300 psi on the high side, which is way too high for this vehicle, for these humidity and temperature conditions that we have right now. So again, the first thing to check with any AC complaint of not cooling, you want to make sure you got Freon in there, and you want to probably check the purity of your Freon. But after that, the first thing to check is whether or not whether you got a viscous clutch or you got an electric fan. You always want to check your blower motor or to see that you're actually pulling enough air through the condenser to cool the Freon. I'll try this one more time here. And you see we're back up around 300 again, which is, like I said, it's too high. Before at idle, the fan clutch actually stopped moving. Okay, and we can see our pressure here building awfully fast. It works when you first start the vehicle, the clutch will work, but after she's been running a while, especially after you've been running down the highway a bit, you come to an idle and your pressures are just way too high due to the lack of air going through the condenser to give you adequate air conditioning to cool your lines. You can even feel right here that the line isn't, while the high side is almost too hot to touch, the low side really isn't all that cool for what you would expect out of this vehicle. So we're going to change that fan clutch, and that should take care of our problem here. So, okay.